Hi, so one of the things I've been thinking about and I thought would make a good topic of discussion is relationships when you have depression. Now, I haven't had a lot of relationships. Most of you probably know that. I was once going out with someone who, he was a nice guy. But all the time I was going out with him, I kept thinking, why? Why do you want to be with me? What's so special about me? And it was nothing to do with him. Like I said, he was a really nice guy. And um, I guess in a way I felt I didn't deserve the relationship. So I've pretty much shied away from it. Anyway, a few years ago, I was on the train home. This was when I was living in Auckland, and I'd actually been to the doctor, and I had a throat infection, and so I wasn't supposed to talk or anything like that. So anyway, I get to my stop, and this guy stands up, and he's looking back at me, and he's smiling at me, and I'm like, why are you smiling at me? And he approaches me as I get off the train, and he says, I think you're really beautiful. I think, you're, really great, and and who wouldn't be flattered by that? But a part of me said, well, part of me was thinking, is this guy for real? Why would someone just walk up to me and say that? Because that just doesn't happen to me. And anyway, we started talking, and he started to sort of give me the idea that he wanted to come to my place. I had a bed sit. It was an awful, the house was probably over 100 years old and had been converted into flats. And so it was not the kind of place where you'd want to take a potential partner. And of course, I've always been messy, so I didn't get a lot of visitors. So I didn't really care too much about appearances in that sense. And he was getting a little bit pushy about it, and I kept making excuses. So, I mean, I know, I guess I can assume what people are thinking, that well, logically this guy was only after one thing. And, that's the feeling that I started to get, because, if a guy really was serious about wanting to get to know me, he would have been prepared for my feelings about actually wanting to, develop a friendship with someone before having that kind of relationship. So I guess now when someone says something like that to me, like, I think you're beautiful, or I think you're really attractive, a big part of me is saying, well, what do you want? Why are you saying this to me? Are you really serious? And a lot of it stems from the fact that whenever I wanted to do something that, other people would consider normal, like going out with friends, or a few years ago when I was doing my first degree at university, I had this small group of friends, and they wanted to go on what was called a pub crawl. It was nothing serious, it was just, having a few drinks with friends. And, this was when my father was still alive, and he hated the idea. He didn't want me going out, and he would, sit up till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. He wouldn't even go to sleep until I was home. Now, normally you're thinking, well, yeah, of course he was worried about me, and it was natural for a parent to do stuff like that. But his went beyond the pale. I mean, this was a man who was very possessive, and he didn't even like my mum going out because he was, afraid that, she'd play around on him or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, there were other things that I wanted to do, like when I was a teenager, if I wanted to go out somewhere, he'd say, oh, yeah, but I don't want to get out of bed at 10:30 and come and get you. Like, well, how are you going to get home? And it wasn't normal reaction. It was, oh, well, I can't be bothered. I don't want to get out of bed at 10:30 to come and get you. So it made me feel like I was being inconvenient to him. Other things, he would laugh at me. I was a voracious reader when I was a teenager. I still read quite a bit now, but not as much as before. And some of the books could be, well, not racy, but, we're talking more than PG-13 rating. And he would laugh at me for that. He would make fun of me. So I guess this is where my sort of attitude towards intimacy comes from, because I was always afraid of being made fun of for thinking these things, and so I guess I got the sense from him that it was wrong. So like when I was in high school, I didn't have a boyfriend. I didn't go around with boys like some of my friends did. So, and I think a lot of it was because the barriers that I put up because of my dad. And one of the answers to that was when I was young, having these tantrums and that, and then, going to my dad basically to apologise and that, and saying I love you, and him saying, oh yeah, I love you too, except when you're naughty. So I think that's coloured a lot of my feelings towards other people. Like, if I ever show my real self, then they'll never love me, because sometimes my real self can be a bit naughty in the sense that I can't always control my emotions. And believe me, I've got very good friends who have seen this, who know how difficult I can be, and they don't care. They love me anyway, but I still feel sometimes like I had to be on my best behaviour with them. That's really hard, So when you have all that going on, the idea of having a relationship is really scary. And I see on different forums and that, people talking about how they have depression and how their partner isn't supportive, or they're afraid of pushing their partner away. And that's another fault I have, is I do tend to push people away, or I hide myself from them. When one of my best friends actually said to me, you're really hard to get to know because you've got so many barriers up. And while it's become easier with age to let people in, it's still really hard to have a relationship, because I've never had like a full-on love relationship. And it's that part of me that says that anyone who pays me a compliment actually wants something from me. And so I guess you know, it's a cynical approach to it. And anyone who does want that kind of relationship from me, they're going to have to work really hard to get it, because they're going to have to get through all those barriers that I put up. So, and I guess, one of the questions that people ask me is, well, what's your ideal relationship? And for me, it is finding someone who is willing to do that work, who is willing to actually make me believe that they really care about me, and when they see me, they don't see the faults that I see. They actually see differently, and they can convince me that that's what they see, rather than they're only telling me what they think I want to hear, or they're only telling me just to flatter me. So, yeah, anybody like that has got a hard task ahead of them. And that's another thing that I sort of want to remind you about, is that's something that you have to deal with when your partner has depression. That deep down they're thinking, okay, well, why is this person with me, and do I really deserve this relationship? And sometimes they might actually do what's called self-sabotage. So they will do anything to get out of the relationship, even though it's all subconscious. So yeah, in summary, relationships when you have depression are really hard, and there are actually a lot of issues you have to deal with. Issues like putting up walls and self-sabotage, self-fulfilling prophecy, and this whole idea that you don't deserve to be with the person you're with. And I hope I can go away and leave you with something like that to think about. And that's it. Thanks.